Welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be creating our first sketch. Let's start by creating a SolidWorks part document. Select Part and click OK. As you see in the status bar, we're in part editing mode. Let me just expand the standard Windows toolbar and pin it down. If you don't see the status bar, go to View and scroll down to Status Bar and select it. Let me just close the Motion Manager. We can create a sketch in a few different ways, and we're going to explore all of these options in this lesson. Take a look at the design tree. SolidWorks gives us three default planes: the front plane, the top plane, and the right plane. All three planes are currently hidden. To make them visible, just right-click on any of the nodes and select Show. Now the planes remain visible in the graphic area even when we mouse away, and we can resize them with these handles. We can also drag and move the planes. To hide a plane, just right-click and select Hide. Okay, let's create our first sketch. Right-click and select Sketch. The top plane changes orientation, and we see that Sketch 1 is now a node in the design tree. In the status bar, we see that we're in sketch editing mode and we're editing Sketch 1. In the top right-hand corner of the graphic area, we have what's known as the confirmation corner. If we click the arrow to accept the changes in our sketch, we will exit the sketch, or we can click the red X to disregard the changes in our sketch. Let's click the arrow to accept and exit. Notice that the sketch node disappeared from the design tree. The reason for this is that we didn't place any geometry or modify that sketch. It was an empty sketch. Let's take a look at another way to create a sketch. I'm going to go to the Sketch tab. If you don't see it here on the Command Manager, just right-click on any tab and select it from the list of available tabs. Here we've got two options for sketching, a 2D sketch and a 3D sketch. Let's select 2D sketch, that's two-dimensional. The first thing SolidWorks does is prompt me to select a plane on which I will sketch. I can select a plane right from the graphic area, or I can select a plane from the design tree. Sketch 2 is now an active node in the design tree. And once again, in the status bar, we see that we're editing Sketch 2. This time, I'm going to click on the red X in the confirmation corner. That closes the sketch and disregards the changes. SolidWorks gives me a warning window. Do I really want to discard the changes and exit? Yes, I do, so let's click that option. Another way to create a sketch is from a sketch-based feature tool. Let's go to the Features tab. All the feature tools are grayed out except these first two, the Extruded Boss Base and the Revolved Boss Base. These are known as sketch-based features. In other words, to create the extruded boss or a revolved boss, we need a sketch profile. Let's begin by activating the Extruded Boss Base command. Once again, SolidWorks prompts me to select a plane. Let's select the top plane right in the graphic area. For this example, I'll be demonstrating the Line tool. Let's go to the Line tool in the Command Manager and click the little downward pointing arrow next to it. We've got two line creation options, Line and Center Line. Let's select Line. Notice my cursor changes to a pencil. This is how the cursor looks when a sketch tool is active. There's also a line icon underneath the cursor. Here's the Line Property Manager. Click the tab to the left to get back to the Feature Manager design tree. Here's the Property Manager, and the Line Property Manager remains open. We've got some more information in the status bar now. It displays the real-time location of the cursor in the 2D environment with X and Y positions respectively. Let's left-click to place the first point of the line. You can release the mouse button. Notice this rubber band effect. Next to the cursor is a feedback number, and what this does is give us an approximate length of the line in your current units of measurement, in my case, millimeters. A left click now would give me a 24 millimeter line. Let's move a little bit more. A second left click places the second point of our line. The line tool remains active. If we left-click again, we'll place a second line. As you see, the rubber band effect is still visible. A third click makes a third line. And let's double-click to end this line chain. As you see, we've created 3 lines. Let's take a look at these entities. The first and second lines that I created share one point. They are coincident at this point. The second and third lines also share a point. They're coincident at this point. And the line tool is still active, so let's keep drawing. Let's create another line chain. Another way to end a line chain is to right-click and select End Chain. If you want to create a single line, just left-click in the graphic area, keep the left mouse button held down, and drag it, and then release where you want to end the line. And now you've created a single line. Next, let's create a line between 2 points. Let's mouse over this point. This double yellow circle is the coincident relation glyph. When a relation glyph is visible and I left-click the mouse button, I will apply that relation at that point. I've just applied a coincident relation between the 2 lines at that point. Once again, we've got the rubber band effect and feedback. Let's mouse over this point. The coincident relation glyph appears again. Now I'm going to drag the cursor down along this line. A number of other relations will appear. This glyph indicates a coincident relation between the point and the line. Let's continue dragging the cursor along the line. There's a few more glyphs that are available to us. Once I hit the midpoint of this line, the glyph changes again. If I left-click now, I'll apply a coincident relation between the point and the midpoint of the line. And let's make our line coincident to the first point of this single line. And here is our next line. To exit the line tool, we can click the green check mark in the Property Manager. I can also press Escape on the keyboard. There's a third way. I can right-click and choose Select. If I activate any other tool, let's say the rectangle tool, I'll automatically close the line tool. Let's right-click and select to exit the rectangle tool. And let's activate the line tool again by left-clicking on the icon in the ribbon. Let's create another line coincident to these 2 points. Now I'm ready to exit the sketch. Let's click Accept and Exit in the confirmation corner. Since we started our sketch by activating the Extruded Boss Base tool, SolidWorks has created an extrusion and brought us to the Boss Extrude Property Manager. Let's cancel out of this Property Manager. SolidWorks returns us to the sketch. I'm going to click in the graphic area to deselect all of the entities. Now let's select this line and click Delete on the keyboard. I want to create a closed profile, so I'm going to grab this point and drag it until I see the coincident relation symbol. I'll release it and place the second point coincident to that point. Now we've got a closed profile. I'm ready to exit the sketch. As you see, we're back in part editing mode. Sketch 3 appears as a node in the design tree. And the minus sign next to the sketch tells us that the sketch is underdefined. In other words, the geometry doesn't have enough constraints, these being dimensions and relations, for SolidWorks to calculate a model as accurately as possible without moving it in space. Efficient and cleanly defined sketches are very important in the 3D CAD environment. To edit our sketch, we just right-click on it in the design tree and select Edit Sketch. Now I'm able to make some changes. And let's accept and exit. Let's create another sketch on the top plane. Right-click, select Sketch. Activate the line tool. Let's create another profile. Close it with a coincident relation. Exit the sketch. Now Sketch 3 and Sketch 4 are both visible in the graphic area and in the design tree. In order to hide a sketch, just right-click and select Hide. Notice that the node in the design tree remains visible, but it is grayed out. In the graphic area, the hidden sketch is no longer visible. However, when I mouse over the node, the sketch will become visible in the graphic area. To make the sketch visible, just right-click and select Show. And lastly, for this tutorial, I'm going to create a solid extrusion. Let's activate the Boss Base tool. Select the sketch we see in the preview, and let's accept the default options. Let's take a look at the design tree. As you see, Sketch 3 is consumed by Boss Extrude 1. This easily lets us look at the tree to see how we made our part. If you happen to be working in previous versions of SolidWorks, like 2011 or earlier, Sketch 3 is going to be hidden. And this concludes our tutorial about creating your first sketch.